issues that are controversial and sensitive in ways that threaten the established order are dealt with not through rational evidence and serious scholarship, but by emotive attacks and efforts to discredit and distract, and that deeper than the question of any individual, whether it's me or Professor Griffin, is this whole debasement of democratic discourse in contexts of this sort, where you no longer get a serious respect for reasoned discussion, even reasoned debate. You don't get a serious effort to respect evidence, but rather you get this kind of character assassination and an avoidance of the substantive issues. And I think the media should also be brought into this discussion, because they take uncritically these kinds of tactics that are used to obscure inquiry, and do not themselves. There's nothing that inhibits the media from engaging in serious investigative journalism, which they've done on a variety of issues over time. But this issue is so toxic for the public discourse that it inhibits and is manipulated by the mainstream media in such a way as to lead to the very phenomenon that you've been describing.
I've been very touched and moved by the comments that you've made, how this affects our sense of citizenship and engagement with institutions of government or other agencies of civil society, for instance, the media, and the huge responsibilities that are given the media to give some sort of accurate reflection of how the world is really constructed, and how that seems to be falling down, that we don't get anything close to a reflection in the mainstream media of how we can see reality is constructed, and how this causes people to lose heart, to become alienated from these institutions, from their sense of self-empowerment and responsibilities of citizenship.
Yes, I think that's another really deeply unfortunate effect of this kind of politics, and it shows that for these sorts of issues, and I would include the Palestine-Israel conflict, that the governing process, including the media reinforcement of that process, seeks to make individuals behave as subjects, not as citizens. Because as citizens, we have a moral imperative to follow the dictates of our conscience and our knowledge. As subjects, we have the obligation to do what we're told and to behave in a way that the governing authorities are seeking and demanding.
Yes, and as professors in the academy, we have a particular responsibility to demonstrate that the pursuit of truth is vital, is central to our institutions, our civilization, and to see the academy being sort of played, and basic questions of evidence are sort of evaded. It's very corrosive. I find it corrosive in the academy.
Yes, there's no question that part of what has been happening, I don't know if it's as true in Canada as here in the United States, is that criticism of Israel is discouraged by this same kind of character assassination that has been my experience this last couple of weeks. And that is, again, making us incapable as a society and institutionally of engaging in the sort of critical thought that must be at the core of a university's undertaking. And as you say, the pursuit, if we give up the pursuit of truth, wherever it may lead, we have been complicit in the corruption of academic life and our own vocation as university teachers.
Yes, on that note, and I thank you very much, Professor Falk, for this generous time that you've made available. It's quite a moment in history. I'd like to introduce you formally to my graduate student, Joshua Blakeney, who, twice in the National Post, in a national newspaper here in Canada, has kind of been smeared for his efforts to articulate truth as he sees it concerning Israel-Palestine and also concerning 9/11. And if you'd be game for a little bit more time, I'd like to put Joshua in the chair in which I'm sitting and give him the chance to confer with you. And I'm sure he brings other perspectives that he's taken some steps that I might be frankly fearful to take. He's articulated things in a very straightforward manner and taken some harsh consequences already in his nascent and apprentice career as an academic. So.
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
I can only do this briefly because I do have to.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Professor Falk. If I could ask you one question, it would be that I started taking an interest in the Israel-Palestine conflict, and I began to look at it as a kind of isolated situation. And I was obviously then separately interested in 9/11 and the war on terror. But I began to realize that these aren't two separate subjects, that they very much overlap. And as I've engaged with the scholarship, you have the likes of Professor Chomsky on one side who say the war on terror, it was all for the American empire. But increasingly there's scholarship emerging from, for example, sociologist James Petrus, who have made the case quite convincingly that the war on terror was actually for Israel, or to some extent on behalf of a kind of Likudnik faction that kind of co-opted certain elements within the Republican Party. And I must add that I may be wrong about this, but I have seen a great deal of evidence that on 9/11 some Mossad agents were arrested in Liberty Park, and kind of the famous kind of dancing Israelis. And so do you believe that the war on terror was to just only for American interests, or do you believe that we're seeing what James Petrus has called the globalization of Zionism, the expansion of the Zionist agenda to take out leaders in the Middle East who might not serve its agenda?
I have myself avoided those questions because they require a kind of substantive knowledge and inquiry that I just haven't had time and to some extent the background to really assess. And I know that serious people have disagreed about how to characterize these issues. And again, they're obviously important to explore, but I've avoided throughout my own work in the last decade looking into the substance of any of I've consistently taken the view that what is necessary is an authoritative inquiry, and not taken a premature view as to what that inquiry might disclose. So I have really no comment on your question from a substantive point of view.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Professor Falk,
Okay.
for these thoughts. And if you have any final thoughts, this would be the moment to bring those forward. Otherwise, we could adjourn for the time being.
No, I thank you for a thoughtful conversation. I think from my perspective, where I feel I have the comparative advantage, I've tried to keep the focus on the Israel-Palestine conflict because of this effort to use the 9/11 controversy as a way of distracting attention from the ordeal that the Palestinian people are suffering day by day as we speak. I felt the really important thing for me personally is to keep the attention as best I can on that set of concerns.
Yeah.
And thank you so much
Yeah.
for this interview, but also the career that stands behind those words and keeping an international global focus on a center of great human suffering and great injustice, something that the fate of the world depends on us addressing the truth of the issues, no matter how difficult those truths might be to assimilate and disseminate.
Well, good. I wish you both
Yeah,
very
thank you
well.
so much. You're an inspiration. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay.
So long.
So long.
Bye.
Bye.